Hi everyone, welcome back to The Lemon Abroad. Today I wanted to make a quick video with some things to consider if you are thinking about moving abroad. These are just some things that I've been thinking about would be helpful to consider when you're in the process of seriously considering moving abroad, because it is a big decision to make. Of course, in my case, this was moving to Italy, but I think these tips are really general and apply to anywhere that you would be moving. Okay, so to get right into it, the first thing that you should be thinking about is where you would like to move. And while there are many places to choose from, there are many places to go and visit, to have a nice vacation, to live somewhere is a very different thing. So I think it would be good to take some reflection and think about why it is that you are choosing to move abroad in the first place, what it is that you are looking for from a new country or a new city that you don't have at home. Do you want to move somewhere with better weather? Do you want to move somewhere where they speak a certain language because you love that language and you want to learn it? Obviously, there are as many different reasons for choosing to move abroad as there are places that you could go. So if you haven't already decided on where exactly it is that you want to go, or maybe you're looking at which city in a country you would like to live, there are many things that you can consider. If you're able to, or if you already have, a great thing to do would be to do kind of like a test run or an extended vacation in a place. So for example, when I was moving to Palermo, I had already spent some time here before. So I already kind of had a lay of the land. I had an idea of the kinds of things that were going on here, and it seemed like a place that I could fit in and where I could build my life. I know now, of course, that I barely scratched the surface of what was here in Palermo, what things were available to me, and also what would be the more realistic conditions of moving here on my own. But at that time, I could see that there was a lot of potential for me here, and that played a big part in my decision to come back. So if you are able to go and visit a place that you are thinking about moving, I would definitely say take advantage of that time to try and get to know people. Now, I'm not saying that the people you meet are going to become your best friends or that all of a sudden you're going to have a big group of people around you. This definitely does not happen overnight. Building a community takes a lot of time. It is really hard to make friends as an adult in a new city. But I think for a few reasons, this is really important. For one, getting to know people, you're going to hear their experience in this city. So if you come as a visitor, you see the city in one way. But people who have grown up here or people who are also expats who have moved here, they experience it in a much different way. And actually, those two groups of people probably experience it at least a little different from each other. But see what they think about the city, see what they think about the services that are offered, about the accommodations that are available. For example, Palermo is a wonderful city. I love living here, but it's a very different experience to come as a visitor, because if you come as a visitor, you're probably going to stay in this really cute, just renovated Airbnb. The host probably spends all their time trying to make this like the best property they can, and that's really great for you. However, for the people who live here, it's very difficult to find a decent apartment at a reasonable price. Even it's hard to find a decent apartment, not even at a reasonable price. And that's not something you might know until you are actually moving to a place. So I think it's really important to get to know people and hear what they think and hear what their experiences were. More generally, it's just so wonderful to get to know people. Like I said, this might not be your next best friend, but maybe their friend is your next best friend. Something like that. You know, I really think it's a virtuous circle. Community grows out of community. So the more people you meet, the more people you're going to meet. And eventually you're going to find your group of people. You're going to find your close friends. And that is so important to have, especially if you have moved to a new city where you don't have any family that you can rely on. You don't have old friends that you can connect with. Having connection with people is super important, and it's going to be super important for your well-being and happiness. So even though it's really hard to get out of your comfort zone, I know, try and see if there are expat groups, try and see if there are going to be activities you like to do, maybe a dance class or an instrument you play, a book club, somewhere that you're going to be able to connect with people. And you can even start doing that before you move. You can start looking online and seeing what's available, start looking in Facebook groups, for example. And even then, you can start to see what's going on, how people are talking about things, and you can kind of start to get a vibe and probably learn some information that will be helpful to you. The next thing I would consider when you're looking for a place to move abroad is, do you know the language? Now, I know it isn't always necessary to be advanced in a language to live in that country, but it definitely can't hurt. Even if you're going to be, for example, working in English, and you know that there are a lot of international people in this city that you would be able to connect with and probably speak English or another language with them, I think it's so important to learn the local language, at least the basics to begin with, because if not, I think you're really going to be isolating yourself from all of the people who live there. And I think that kind of defeats the purpose of someone moving there, right? Because you're going to be isolating yourself from the community in which you're moving into. Hopefully, by learning some basics of the language, at least to begin with, you would be able to strike up some conversations with people. You never know where it could lead. You never know who could be your next friend that you're going to meet. Also, language classes would be a great way to meet other people who are coming to the city like you, who are there for a reason just like you are, so you already have something in common. But hopefully by learning the language and at least the basics, you'll be able to strike up conversations with the people who are local to where you've moved to. And hopefully you'll be able to get to know them and be friends with them. And you'll have a much richer experience of the place where you're living if you're able to do this. On a more practical note, something to consider is, what are you going to be doing here? Are you going to be studying, working? Are you retired? It's important to look at, in any of these cases, what the cost of living is. For example, the cost of living could be lower than where you are now. And if you are retired, that could be a good thing because it could mean you could have a really high standard of living. However, for example, if you're in a place that has a low cost of living, but you are a student or you are going to be looking for a job, you have to keep in mind that a low cost of living probably means that the salaries are lower as well. It's really important to keep in mind what standard of living you're expecting and have a practical way of how you're going to reach that for yourself. Look at the area where you're living. What are the common jobs? What are the industries there? What companies are there? Is there something that you would like to do? This is also where it's really helpful to meet people and ask them, what do you do? Where are you working? And hopefully you'll be able to get some ideas from that. Okay, so the last thing I want to say for today is that moving abroad wherever you go is going to be a challenge. There are so many new things to learn and to adapt to, and it's really going to be beneficial to you if you can take on a kind of go with the flow attitude. You don't have to change yourself. You don't have to try and do everything like how they do it in your new country, but you are going to have to be flexible and adapt when necessary. It's just going to be a lot easier for you if you have a more patient mentality. I can tell you I've really struggled with that, so I know it's difficult. On the flip side, there are probably a lot of things about this new place that you want to move to that you like, which is probably the reason why you want to move there in the first place. But it's definitely going to be a give and take, so just give yourself time to adjust to everything and try to be patient, because learning all these new rules and expectations and how things work is not going to happen overnight. So these are just a few things I wanted to share with you to start thinking about if you're seriously considering moving abroad. While there are definitely benefits to moving abroad, and I think it could be a wonderful option, I think it's important to keep these things in mind so that you can realistically prepare yourself for what will probably be a big adjustment, at least at first. Of course, over time, you will meet new people. You will learn how things work in your new country. You will improve your language skills. But you have to do all of this one step at a time. But I do think that if that is what you really want, then you can definitely face those challenges and overcome them and thrive in a new city, a new country. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was useful for you and gave you something to think about if you're seriously considering moving abroad. I'll see you in my next video. Ciao!